What's up, YouTube? Ryan Panny here. Hope you guys are doing reasonably well. It is so good to be back here after a pretty quiet couple of months. You know, the real estate market fucking exploded, mostly because of Corona, and I really had to be on point for that. Still kind of do, but it's not as crazy as it was. But these sort of time-sensitive lists, like this one probably should have came out 3 or 4 weeks ago, these are a great excuse for me to just put everything aside for a minute and get back into this. So for those of you who are new to these quarterly songs lists that I do, here's how it goes. 15 of my favorite songs from one quarter of the year, alphabetical by artist, no metal music. This is a time for highlighting all the non-metal music that I've really been enjoying over the past few months. In the description to the video, you will find the full Spotify playlist with 10 additional honorable mentions. And it's very likely that in the coming weeks, when I'm feeling lazy about selecting music in a car ride, I'll probably be bumping that playlist myself. You know, when you do like those 5-minute runs to the grocery store, you're just like, I have nothing to listen to. You just kind of throw on the most recent playlist that you made. That's this one for me. And I'll likely be sitting there like, why the fuck did I include this in the honorable mentions? This song is terrible. I don't really like it at all, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, here they are, my top 15 favorite songs from April 2020 through June 2020. Gotta kick it off with Awolnation, Pacific Coast Highway in the Movies. That's the whole title. Unfortunately, I feel like people really write this band off because they did get famous off of a pretty repulsive single 10 years ago that was like a bad mashup of Imagine Dragons and One Republic, and has aged even worse than that sounds, if you can possibly imagine. But in reality, these last couple records especially, Here Comes the Runts in 2018, and this new one, Angel Miners and the Lightning Riders, that's the correct title, right? They've been full of genuinely crunchy and lively hard rock and alt rock tunes. Like the music, especially on Runts, the foot is off the gas a little bit on this new one, but especially on Runts, like the music on there is not that far down the lineage from like Songs for the Deaf. And that misperception of the band has continually motivated me to give them the benefit of the doubt, even though on this new record, it's not quite as influenced by pure rock music as Here Come the Runts was. And this specific song, Pacific Coast Highway, which actually features Rivers from Weezer, in appropriate Weezer fashion, is so buoyant and irresistibly melodic on its face, but when you look at the actual lyrical tone that it takes on, it's pretty downtrodden and depressing. And that's a combination that I have loved about Weezer's music for over half my life, and he really does bring that to this song. Charlie XCX with Anthems. Like a lot of people out there, I really enjoyed the immediacy of her quarantine-themed album, How I'm Feeling Now. Projects like that one, and more recently there's Wale's Politically Charged EP, these projects make me feel so grateful for this era of music that we're living in now. Music has become, for a lot of major artists, so much less calculated and methodical and a lot more reactive. There's a lot of good songs on this album, but Anthems in particular really makes me laugh because it reminds me of that scene in The Office where Michael Scott tries to throw a hotel party and no one shows up, but he's got this like really obnoxious like Girls Gone Wild song blaring in the background. It's like one of my favorite images from the entire run of that show. And this song kind of has a similar feel where you have this like hard techno backbone, but then the actual opening lyrics, let me read some of them. The actual opening lyrics of the song, even with this fucking backbone going, here it is. I'm so bored, woo. Wake up late and eat some cereal. Try my best to be physical, lose myself in a TV show, staring out to oblivion, all my friends are invisible. It's so honest. It's just like a pure diary entry. This next song, it kind of breaks the rules since it technically dropped in early January. I actually remember it being the very first new song of 2020 that I heard. That's always a significant thing after New Year's when you're hungover, you hear like the first song. But anyway, this song was technically on a project that dropped in April, so I'm gonna include it here. Drake War. And it's also appropriate to include because I didn't like it when I first heard it. I didn't really start enjoying it until the actual project came out. This song just has the coldest instrumental. It just oozes that frigid Toronto air, just like a lot like many of the great Drake instrumentals like Nine or Underground Kings. It's menacing. It's kind of dark too. It just has this darkness to it. I really do love Drake's flow. I think his bars are kind of cringy and that stupid accent he does is really annoying. But the truth of the matter is, anything would have worked over this beat. It really is the instrumental that brings the song home, and that's totally fine in hip hop to admit that. Division with Friends. Speaking of moody OVO artists, I'm just intoxicated by that wave of synths that crashes over you in this instrumental. It's got such a specific nocturnal mood to it. It's so sexy. And I always say this about The Weeknd too, and Majid Jordan. It's the kind of music that Drake just wishes he could make. And that always makes me chuckle when I'm listening to artists do a really good job at what he's always wanted to do, but just can't quite figure out. Next, Freddie Gibbs, and most notably Tyler, the Creator, in rare form with something to rap about. You just can't lose with this song. Between Alchemist's jazzy instrumental with those dreamy guitars and Freddie Gibbs' incredibly smooth flow, and Tyler, the Creator's just inimitable personality when he hops on for this extended guest verse. This is just a must listen for people who love rap. Hayley Williams with Creepin'. The frontwoman of Paramore showed a lot of versatility on her solo record, Pedals for Armor. I enjoyed a lot of songs on there. And this little ditty in particular about toxic relationships, complete with her just addictive, airy falsetto in that post-chorus section, it just had me from the moment I heard it. Love this song. JoJo Ortiz and King Crooked, I'm going with Get Ya Money off their new EP, Hard. These two reuniting, half of Slaughterhouse reuniting, was one of the best surprises of the year for me so far. And I knew they were gonna kill their verses. I knew that was coming, but hearing Crooked Eye especially on something hooky, which his inability to write catchy songs has just plagued him throughout his entire career. Hearing him on a song that was this catchy was really exciting. And by the way, Crooked by far still has the best bars of the year for me from all the way back in January. It's just... I just noticed, this is really sad. It took me like 6 months to realize that when he says on that song, Abra, I go ham like dead presidents. I got that reference, but I didn't realize that the Abra could also be read or pronounced like, hey bruh, hey bruh. Like, it took me like, that's the kind of level that he's on. Or I'm just an idiot, either one. But it took me like 6 months to realize that like small chunk of that bar. Kehlani's luxurious and sensual Change Your Life is up next. A great feature from Janae Aiko is part of the package here too. You know, Kehlani's music is so sonically appealing a lot of the time, but it just feels like all she can fucking talk about is sex. That's it. Like, that's all she does is just get dick down. I don't know her personal life, but I do wish she had more lyrical range, just more substantive things to talk about besides like how wet her pussy gets. Kind of gross. But the thing about Change Your Life, it is still kind of about sex, but it's more about what a genuinely fulfilling relationship could look like and the possibilities that could hold when you fully commit to it and allow it to happen. Her overarching point in this song feels to me like, hey, this is what happens if you invest in me and you allow me to take you on this journey of being together, like really together, not in the postmodern sense, but like really explore each other's lives and all that. This is what could happen. And I think the sonic backdrop here is perfect for that message. We've got one big fat guilty pleasure up next, and maybe my most listened to song of the entire quarter, sadly, but Kygo Was Beautiful. I have hated basically all of his music recently, still do, and this song is still run-of-the-mill, just pop EDM shit, but for some reason it caught me. It just caught my ear the very first time I heard it, and it hasn't really let go. Love that big happy-go-lucky drop. I just eat up those fucking corny lyrics. This is a song that I've used a lot just to get myself back into a more optimistic and happier and more motivated headspace. I think we all have songs in our life that do that, and for the last couple months, this has been my version of that. Metric, We Are the Energy. This new album of his just brought me right back to the early 2010s when I used to listen to a lot of drum and bass artists like Pendulum, and this song in particular just feels like a fucking time machine back to that early 2010s era with the hard-hitting percussion and the buzzsaw synthesizer riffs and just the overall more song-centric approach to a harder and more aggressive form of electronic music. I've really enjoyed revisiting that part of my palette with this record, and We Are the Energy is one of the best examples of that. Kyoto by Phoebe Bridgers, a super talented alternative singer-songwriter that I'm pretty ashamed to have not heard of until her new record, Punisher. And on this record, she especially excels in that tender and kind of spacey ballad department with a lot of my other favorite songs, but the upbeat and kind of cheeky single Kyoto is what I'm going to give the nod here. She exhibits a mastery here of hook writing, of light and fun storytelling full of these non sequiturs, and especially of dynamics, the way the verses are so bare and so unassuming, but the chorus feels so full and so huge. Purity Rings Femia, a very pretty and emotional but spaced out electronic song from an album full of very similar songs. When I lit my cigar for July 4th and I separated myself from my friends for a little bit, this was the song and album, but especially this song, that I wanted to put on while staring at the moonlight, while the fireworks went off, just having a little moment for myself. And so if that kind of gives you any indication of how I feel about this song, Yeah, there's just no substitute for frontwoman Megan James's ethereal voice. Nothing can compare for me. It's so soft and soothing. Run the Jewels with the crunchy, stomping, very rock-influenced song, The Ground Below. Killer Mike, of course, kills it here, but so does LP, who is just in general so fucking underrated as an MC. Although, in this particular song, it is Killer Mike who walks away with the most memorable bars. At the end of the first verse, he says, "Not a holy man, but I'm moral in my pervertedness. So I support the sex workers unionizing their services." You can't beat that. Next up, The Strokes with the very appropriately titled, "Why Are Sundays So Depressing?" Good fucking question, The Strokes. I could never handle Sundays. The only reason I ever got over how fucking depressing Sundays are is because I started working for myself. So now I have no days off. So there's not that lingering back to work depression that just crushes you at the end of the weekend. It's just, I'm always sort of working every day, and I kind of choose how much of that I want to do on any given day. So there you go. If you're one of those people who looks at this title and it really resonates with you, just work every day and you won't have that contrast between being off and being depressed in your cubicle wanting to kill yourself. Anyway, this song is actually not about a day of the week at all. It's really just the droopy mood that the Strokes set here that I love, and it's why I always come back to the music. They're one of my favorite indie bands of all time. And also that ironically peppy guitar line in the middle of this track is just awesome. And finally, another song that I really beat to death, the beautiful and heartfelt closer to the overly long new 1975 album, the song Guys. This track is just executed to perfection. It's laced with wistful nostalgia and an ultra smooth, very summer-like musical landscape. It's actually about Matt Healy's love for his bandmates, but I choose to listen to it as a traditional love song because it hits me harder that way. The only time where I sort of switch back into Matt's headspace is towards the end of the track when he says just flat out, "You guys are the best thing that ever happened to me," because that's really sweet. And there is such a special bond that forms when you're in a touring band like that. That's more than a relationship. That's a marriage to several people. And he just does such a great job conveying those emotions in this song. It's a really sweet song. And there you have it. I really hope you guys enjoyed this video and have some new songs to check out. Let me know what you think of them. And if you want the complete story of everything I've been listening to, be sure to hit up that Spotify link in the description. All right, on to mid-year lists, which I'm also late on now. And as always, thank you so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed this video and are not yet subscribed to my channel, please consider doing so by clicking right over here, as well as checking out any of the other music-related content that I publish here on a weekly basis. I really appreciate you guys watching, liking, disliking, just engaging in any fashion. Twitter, Instagram handle @RyanandPandyMusic. Again, thank you so much for watching, guys, and I will see you soon.